Imagine holding in your hand a small piece of history, a coin that has silently witnessed the passing of decades. The Sekou Piso coin of 1984 is more than just a medium of exchange. It is a window into the social, political, and cultural landscape of the Philippines. During a transformative era, the story of this coin begins at a time when the Philippine nation was under the leadership of President Ferdinand Marcos, and the country was at the height of a period marked by both rapid modernization efforts and deepening political unrest. The 2 peso coin, introduced in 1983 and continued in 1984, represented not only an adjustment to the currency system, but also a carefully designed piece of national identity. This coin was larger in size compared to the 1 peso and carried a value that made it significant for everyday transactions at a time when the economy faced inflationary pressures. The obverse side of the coin bore the profile of Andres Bonifacio, one of the most revered national heroes of the Philippines. Bonifacio symbolized resistance, bravery, and the struggle for independence as the leader of the Katipunan movement, which spearheaded the Philippine Revolution against Spanish rule. Choosing Bonifacio as the face of the coin was not just a random act of commemoration. It was a deliberate political and cultural choice, highlighting the need to draw inspiration from the struggles of the past in order to strengthen the nation of the present. His image stood as a reminder of Filipino pride and resilience, and by placing him on the 2 peso coin, the government sought to link his revolutionary spirit to the everyday lives of Filipinos handling the currency. On the reverse side, the coin displayed the official seal of the Republic of the Philippines along with the year of minting 1984, a period of significant transition for the country. The seal itself stood for sovereignty, unity, and the vision of the state. It tied together the emblem of the nation with the practical symbol of monetary value, reflecting how state authority extended into every sphere of life, including commerce and trade. The production of the 2 peso coin was managed by the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, and its introduction was part of a broader effort to modernize the currency system during the 1980s. The coin was minted primarily in copper-nickel alloy, giving it durability and a distinctive metallic sheen that distinguished it from smaller denominations. At that time, the design was part of the Flora and Fauna series, which the central bank adopted to showcase both national heroes and the rich biodiversity of the Philippines. This series was symbolic because it combined historical figures with natural heritage, creating a powerful narrative of national pride in both people and land. The 1984 2 peso coin was widely circulated and became an essential part of daily commerce in marketplaces, jeepney fairs, and small-scale trade. Filipinos would have held this coin countless times, often without realizing the layers of meaning embedded in its design to the ordinary citizen. The coin was a practical tool, but to historians and numismatists, it was a reflection of a national story unfolding in the midst of economic challenges and political turbulence. During the mid-1980s, inflation was a growing concern, and the value of the peso was under pressure. Coins, such as the 2 peso, had to be produced in sufficient quantities to keep up with transactional demands, yet the government also faced budgetary challenges in sustaining the minting of higher denomination coins. This made the 2 peso an interesting case in currency history because it was both highly functional and at the same time part of an experimental phase of Philippine coinage. The Flora and Fauna series marked a departure from older designs and sought to bring fresh symbolism into the currency system. Collectors today view the 1984 2 peso coin as a valuable piece, not necessarily because of its monetary worth, but because of its place in the story of Philippine currency. Its design, featuring Bonifacio, is a timeless reminder of the revolutionary spirit, while the reverse connects the coin to state authority and sovereignty. When numismatists evaluate such coins, they look at the year of minting, the metal composition, the mintage numbers, and the state of preservation. While many of these coins circulated heavily and thus show signs of wear, some well-preserved examples command collector interest particularly, because coins from the mid-1980s are becoming increasingly harder to find in pristine condition. To truly understand the depth of this coin, one must situate it within the broader historical moment. 1984 was a year marked by economic crisis, social unrest, and growing opposition to the Marcos regime. The presence of Bonifacio on the coin resonated strongly with Filipinos who saw in him the symbol of the common man's fight against oppression. His placement on a circulating coin meant that his legacy was carried in the hands of millions, daily reinforcing a sense of connection to the past. In a way, the 2-peso coin of 1984 was not just currency. It was a silent storyteller linking the struggles of independence with the realities of modern governance. It was an emblem of national pride at a time when the Philippines was wrestling with its own identity and future direction. Its survival in the hands of collectors and historians today ensures that its story continues to be told. The 1984 2-peso coin carries with it a story that stretches far beyond its metallic form, because it was born in a time when the Philippines was navigating political storms, economic pressures, and a population that sought to balance tradition with the challenges of modernization. To expand on its history, we need to go deeper into its symbolism, its usage, its cultural impact, and its significance for collectors today, as well as how it fit into the broader framework of Philippine coinage. When the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas first issued the 20-peso coin in the early 1980s, it was responding to a practical need. The inflation of the late 1970s and early 1980s had eroded the purchasing power of the peso, making higher denomination coins necessary for everyday use. The introduction of the second peso coin in 1983 and its continuation into 1984 represented not just an economic adjustment, but also a redesign of how the Filipino people interacted with money for the first time. Many ordinary citizens found themselves regularly handling coins of higher value that could pay for meals in small eateries, jeepney rides, and household goods. This shift symbolized how inflation was creeping into everyday life, while at the same time, the government attempted to maintain a sense of order through monetary design. The face of Andres Bonifacio was not chosen randomly. His portrait had long been a subject of debate in Philippine history, as he was often overshadowed by José Rizal. Yet Bonifacio represented the grassroots, the working class, the man of action rather than words. He was not only a revolutionary leader, but also a symbol of defiance against colonial oppression. His placement on the 2-peso coin gave him a powerful presence in the national consciousness, reminding people of the sacrifices made for independence at a time when many Filipinos themselves were questioning the freedoms they had under the martial law era. In 1984, the image of Bonifacio was a bold statement. And while the coin itself was simply legal tender, the symbolism was deeply tied to the identity and emotions of the people. If we study the reverse side of the coin, the seal of the Republic of the Philippines becomes another layer of meaning. Sun, the stars, and the shield symbolized sovereignty and national integrity. It told a story of a state that wished to portray stability, even when the political environment was anything but stable. In 1984, opposition to the government was growing. Street protests were intensifying, and the assassination of Ninoy Aquino in 1983 had shaken the political order. Yet in the midst of all this turmoil, the national seal stamped onto every coin was a declaration that the government remained the guardian of national order. Every coin carried that assertion, whether people accepted it or not. The composition of the coin itself in copper-nickel alloy is also significant. This blend was chosen for its durability since coins had to endure constant circulation. The metallic quality gave the coin a distinctive look and feel, making it different from the smaller one. Peso coin, the weight and shine of the 2-peso, gave it a sense of authority. It felt valuable in the hand, and it stood out in wallets and purses. In markets across the country, you could see stall owners piling up coins like these from customers buying vegetables, fish, rice, and daily essentials. The 2 peso was practical, but it also had presence. It became part of the rhythm of everyday life. 4. Collectors today, the 1984 2 peso coin represents a bridge between two important phases of Philippine coinage: the earlier Filipino series and the later Flora and Fauna series in which it belonged. The Flora and Fauna series was not merely an artistic experiment. It was part of a conscious attempt to highlight the richness of the Philippines both in history and in nature. This design philosophy aimed to build national pride and make every coin a miniature history lesson or cultural symbol, while the 2 peso focused on a hero. Other coins in the series featured flora and fauna that tied the Filipino identity to the land itself. In this way, the currency became not only a means of payment, but also a teaching tool and a daily reminder of heritage. Have you ever held a coin in your hand and wondered if it was just loose change or a silent witness to a nation's journey, a small object carrying within it the pulse of history, culture, and transformation? What if I told you that the 2 peso coin of 1989 is not just a piece of metal, but a living record of the Philippines at a time of great political shifts, economic struggles, and cultural pride? This is more than money. It is the story of a nation carved into copper-nickel alloy waiting to be discovered. The 2 peso coin issued in 1989 stands as part of the Flora and Fauna series, a revolutionary numismatic program introduced by the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas to bring the nation's rich biodiversity into the hands of its citizens, and to highlight the Philippines as one of the most biologically diverse countries in the world. Before this series, coins primarily bore images of national heroes and political figures, but beginning in 1983, the government launched this bold initiative to blend patriotism with environmental awareness, and by 1989, the 2 peso coin had fully established itself as one of the most symbolic pieces in the series. On the obverse of the 1989 2 peso coin, we see the image of Andres Bonifacio, a national revolutionary, hero who stands as the father of the Philippine Revolution against Spanish colonial rule. His portrait appears alongside inscriptions that remind the holder of his enduring importance. Bonifacio was more than a figurehead. He was the embodiment of courage and resistance, and his inclusion on the 2 peso coin was no accident. It was a deliberate act to remind Filipinos of their resilience and their ongoing fight for justice and equality during the late 1980s, a decade still shaped by the shadow of dictatorship and the rise of democracy. The reverse of the 1989 2 peso coin reflects the unique character of the Flora and Fauna series. It depicts the coconut palm scientifically known as Cocos nucifera, a plant that has been central to Filipino life for centuries, providing food, shelter, livelihood, and trade. The coconut is known as the tree of life in the Philippines, and its placement on the coin tied together the themes of economic survival, cultural symbolism, and natural abundance. During this period, the coconut industry played a major role in the Philippine economy, making the image not only a cultural emblem, but also an economic one. The technical details of the coin also reveal much about its purpose and design, struck in copper-nickel. The coin has a diameter of 31 millimeters and a weight of 14 grams, making it relatively large and hefty. Compared to smaller denominations, its reeded edge added both a security feature and a sense of tactile identity, so that even without sight, one could distinguish it from other coins minted by the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas. The 1989 2 peso coin carried the minting quality and artistry that connected Philippine coinage to global standards while still retaining a unique identity. What makes the 1989 issue so significant is not just its physical design, but the historical backdrop of its circulation. This was a time when the Philippines was transitioning from the authoritarian rule of Ferdinand Marcos into the more democratic framework under President Corazon Aquino. The People Power Revolution of 1986 had reshaped the political landscape, and by 1989, the country was navigating new challenges. The peso's strength against foreign currencies fluctuated, the national economy struggled with inflation and debt, yet coins like the 2 peso remained steady daily reminders of resilience in the hands of ordinary citizens. As we dive deeper into its historical context, we see that this coin circulated widely across markets, jeepney rides, sari stores, and public schools. It became a tangible link between rural farmers selling coconuts, fishermen along the coasts, teachers buying chalk, and children purchasing snacks. This simple coin connected millions of lives, and in its daily use became part of the rhythm of Filipino existence. A nation undergoing recovery after years of turmoil still trusted its currency as a foundation of normal life collectors. Today, view the 2 peso 1989 coin not only for its face value, but as a treasured artifact in numismatics. Coins from this series gain special attention because they represent a unique period in Philippine coin design when art, politics, economy, and environment converged in one series condition. Rarity and historical relevance determine collector interest, and the 1989 coin remains sought after in uncirculated condition, with luster intact. Some collectors preserve it in albums as part of the full flora and fauna set, making it a centerpiece of study and appreciation. But the coin is more than collectible metal. It is a conversation piece that speaks of the global coinage trends of the late 20th century. During this time, many nations experimented with bimetallic issues, larger denominations, and thematic designs. The Philippines, through its Flora and Fauna series, stood alongside other nations in innovating its coinage not only to reflect currency needs, but to express cultural pride by embedding nature and history into coin design. The 1989 2 peso became both modern and deeply rooted in Filipino tradition. In examining its legacy, we also uncover how this coin eventually faded out of circulation. The 2 peso denomination was later redesigned under the BSP series, shifting away from flora and fauna themes and toward simpler, more contemporary designs. Eventually, the 2 peso coin itself was demonetized and phased out, replaced by different denominations and materials. Yet the memory of the 1989 coin persists in the hearts of Filipinos who grew up using it. It carries nostalgia, a connection to childhood, and a reminder of simpler days when 2 pesos could buy a hearty snack or a bus fare. This coin is not simply a financial instrument, it is a cultural artifact. It symbolizes the Filipino struggle for independence through Bonifacio. It celebrates natural abundance through the coconut palm. It stands as a witness to political transformation in the late 1980s, and it continues to live on in the collector community as a piece of history that you can hold between your fingers. So the next time you come across a 2 peso coin from 1989, do not just see it as spare change. See it as a key to understanding a nation, a revolution, a people, and a way of life. A coin that has traveled through pockets and hands across decades, carrying with it a story far greater than its modest denomination. When we explore the 2 peso 1989 coin, we must begin by placing it within the larger historical timeline of Philippine coinage, because a coin is never just designed out of thin air. It is born out of necessity, shaped by culture, influenced by politics, and molded by the economic conditions of its era. The 1989 coin belongs to the Flora and Fauna series, a line of coins that ran from 1983 to 1994. Each denomination carefully selected to highlight the natural riches of the Philippines, along with the faces of national heroes. The decision to merge heroes and nature was intentional, as the government sought to reframe national identity after years of political turmoil. The Flora and Fauna series was a landmark departure from the Filipino series that preceded it in the 1970s, which had emphasized national leaders and statesmen alone. The move to showcase plants and animals on coinage reflected a growing global awareness of environmental conservation and the desire to use everyday objects as tools of education and patriotism. Think of it this way. Every Filipino who used these coins was subconsciously reminded of the beauty of their land and the sacrifices of their heroes. In the case of the second piso coin, Andres Bonifacio stood proudly on the obverse side, reminding citizens of the revolution, while the coconut palm on the reverse linked the present to the nation's agricultural lifeline. Andres Bonifacio, born in 1863, was not an elite or aristocratic leader unlike Jose Rizal, who came from a more educated class. Bonifacio rose from humble beginnings in Tondo, Manila, working as a warehouse clerk and, later as a propagandist for independence. He founded the Katipunan in 1892, an underground revolutionary society that lit the spark of revolt against Spanish colonial rule. His leadership style, his charisma, and his unshakable belief in equality made him a hero of the masses, yet his story also carries tragedy as he faced betrayal and eventual execution during internal struggles in the revolutionary movement. By placing his portrait on the second piso coin, the Philippines honored not only his bravery, but also the common people who embodied his spirit in daily life. The coin became a small yet powerful monument to his unfinished dream of true freedom. On the reverse, the coconut palm is equally meaningful. The Philippines is one of the world's top producers of coconuts, and by the 1980s, this crop had become vital to the national economy, producing oil food products, handicrafts, and raw materials for both domestic use and international trade. The coconut is known locally as the tree of life because every part of it can be used: the fruit for food, the husk for ropes, the leaves for roofs, the trunk for lumber, even the sap for sugar and wine. Its symbolism on the coin went beyond agriculture. It was a reminder of sustainability and survival for Filipino families from Luzon to Mindanao. What if I told you that a small piece of metal minted in 1990 carries with it the weight of history, the legacy of a nation, and the story of a currency that bridged tradition and modernity? The Sukad Piso coin of 1990 is not just a coin, it is a living witness to the Philippine economy, the struggles of a young democracy, and the artistry of the country's minting heritage. The 1990 Philippine II Piso coin stands as one of the most significant circulating coins in the modern history of the Philippines, because it represents the era when the country was undergoing political transformation, economic adjustment, and cultural consolidation. The coin was first introduced as part of the new design series of Philippine currency, which was launched by the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas in 1983 and carried through the 1990s. The new design series was created to modernize the currency to reflect both the achievements of the past and the aspirations of the nation, and the second piso coin became one of the flagship denominations that carried a portrait of a national hero and an emblem of sovereignty. The 1990 issue of the 2 piso coin was minted in nickel brass, a metal alloy chosen for its durability, affordability, and bright golden appearance, which gave the coin a distinct and prestigious look compared to the lower denominations. The obverse of the coin featured the effigy of Andres Bonifacio, one of the most revered leaders of the Philippine Revolution against Spanish colonial rule. Bonifacio, the Supremo of the Katipunan, symbolized bravery and national pride, and the decision to place his image on the second piso coin was a deliberate choice by the central bank and government officials to remind Filipinos of the sacrifices of their ancestors in the struggle for independence. The reverse of the 1990 2 piso coin displayed the seal of the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, surrounded by the words Republika ng Pilipinas, and the denomination in clear bold type. This design was meant to ensure recognition and trustworthiness in everyday commerce. The coin was 27 millimeters in diameter and weighed 8.7 grams with a reeded edge that discouraged counterfeiting and added tactile familiarity to users in circulation during 1990. The 2 piso coin played a central role in everyday transactions at a time when inflation was a pressing issue in the Philippine economy. It had significant purchasing power, being used for small meals, for public transportation fares, and for simple household items. To put this in perspective, In the year 1990, a 2-peso coin could buy a jeepney ride in Manila or a piece of bread. In a neighborhood bakery which gave the coin both economic and cultural importance, the minting of the 1990 2-peso coin took place at the facilities of the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas Security Plant Complex, which was established to provide the country with its own independent means of producing banknotes and coins. Prior to the development of these facilities, the Philippines often relied on foreign mints, such as those in the United States and Spain, to supply its currency. But by the 1990s, the nation had fully developed its own minting capacity, making the 1990 2-peso coin a symbol of self-sufficiency and national pride. Historically, the 1990 coin came at a time when the Philippines was under the presidency of Corazon Aquino, who assumed office in 1986 following the People Power Revolution that ended the Marcos regime. The country was navigating a fragile democracy and working to stabilize its institutions. The currency, including coins like the 2-peso, became a silent but constant reminder of national identity and order in commerce throughout the period. Numismatically, the 1990 2-peso coin is highly regarded among collectors because it represents a distinct transitional period in Philippine coinage. By the early 2000s, the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas began phasing out the large 2-peso coin, replacing it with smaller bimetallic issues, and eventually discontinuing the denomination altogether in everyday circulation. This makes the 1990 issue especially notable, since it was widely used but now has become a piece of history rather than a common sight in wallets and pockets. Collectors value the coin not only for its age, but also for its condition, with uncirculated or proof-like examples fetching premium interest in numismatic markets beyond its physical attributes. The 1990 2-peso coin carries deep cultural symbolism. The use of Andres Bonifacio on its obverse reminds citizens of a man who represented the masses, the working class, and the revolutionary spirit that fought for liberty. Whereas many other heroes came from privileged backgrounds, Bonifacio was a self-educated man of humble origins who rose to leadership through sheer determination and courage. Placing him on the coin elevated his legacy and cemented his image in the minds of millions of Filipinos who handled the coin in daily life. This coin also mirrors the broader trend in the Philippines during the late 20th century of reinforcing national pride through currency. The choice of imagery was educational for younger generations who might not have known the story of Bonifacio in detail, but were reminded every time they handled the coin in commerce. Furthermore, the economic context of 1990 shaped the coin's significance. The Philippines was recovering from years of political turmoil and foreign debt, and the currency faced challenges in maintaining stability. The 2-peso coin circulated alongside banknotes of higher denominations, but unlike paper money, the coin had durability and was expected to last in circulation for many years, reducing replacement costs for the central bank. This durability also meant that many of these coins remained in circulation well into the late 1990s and early 2000s, becoming a familiar sight for Filipinos across different regions. The 1990 2-peso coin was also part of a global numismatic shift where many nations were moving toward higher denomination coins due to inflation and the practicality of coins over paper money for small values. Similar trends could be seen in countries like Canada, the United Kingdom, and Japan, where higher denomination coins were introduced around the same time. This placed the Philippine 2-peso coin within a global economic and numismatic context that showed how nations were adapting to the financial realities of the late 20th century. The legacy of the 1990 2-peso coin endures not just among collectors, but also in the memory of everyday Filipinos, who remember its weight, its golden shine, and its role in their daily lives. Today, the coin represents an artifact of national history, a reminder of the 1990s era, and a symbol of how currency can carry stories far greater than its face value. When we examine the 1990 2-peso coin, we are not just looking at a piece of metal, but at a chapter in the story of the Philippines, a chapter of resilience, growth, and national pride. and this is why the coin continues to fascinate historians, economists, and collectors alike. Imagine holding in your hand a small piece of metal that tells a story much larger than its size, a story that takes you back into the heart of the Philippines in the early 1990s, a time when the nation was still shaping its identity in a fast-changing world, and every coin in circulation was more than just currency. It was a symbol of national pride and heritage. The 50 centimo coin of 1992 is one such piece, and today we are going to unfold its complete journey, its design, its creation, its economic and cultural significance, and its place in Philippine numismatic history. The 50 centimo coin issued in 1992 belongs to the Flora and Fauna series of the Philippines, which ran from 1983 until 1994. This series was introduced as a way to celebrate the rich biodiversity of the country while continuing to honor historical figures from Philippine history by placing their portraits on the obverse of the coins. The 1992 50 centimo coin featured on its front the portrait of Francisco Baltazar, more widely known as Francisco Balagtas, a towering literary figure in Philippine history whose works like Florante at Laura became foundations of Tagalog literature. His face on the coin connected the economic daily lives of Filipinos to their cultural and literary heritage, reminding them that the strength of a nation lies not only in trade and money, but also in words, ideas, and identity. Looking at the design more closely, the obverse shows Balagtas facing forward with the name Republika ng Pilipinas arched above him, the year 1992, struck boldly at the bottom. This was a period in which the Central Bank of the Philippines, known as Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, was striving to modernize coinage, improve minting technology, and balance design aesthetics with practical circulation needs. Coins like this were meant to withstand years of use in markets, streets, and public transport, yet also represent Filipino pride. Turning to the reverse, the 50 centimo coin of 1992 continues the theme of the Flora and Fauna series by showcasing the wailing orchid, known scientifically as Vanda sanderiana, regarded as the queen of Philippine flowers. The presence of this orchid on the coin symbolized the natural wealth of the Philippines and its unique ecological treasures below the flower. The denomination 50 centimo is inscribed in clear letters with the official seal of the Central Bank of the Philippines, marking its authenticity. This combination of national hero and natural beauty was not accidental. It reflected the national vision of celebrating both people and environment. The coin was struck in nickel brass, a durable alloy that gave it a golden-like appearance, differentiating it from smaller denominations in circulation. During the early 1990s, Filipinos were using coins from 1 centimo all the way up to several pesos, and each denomination played a role in daily commerce. But the 50 centimo coin was a transitional coin, often considered small change, but still powerful, enough to buy everyday necessities in the marketplace, whether it was used to pay jeepney fares, buy rice candies, or small goods. The coin was constantly in the hands of ordinary Filipinos, becoming not just money, but a shared cultural experience. The 1992 issuance was part of a broader effort by the government to adapt to inflation, stabilize purchasing power, and streamline coinage. The central bank monitored circulation carefully and produced coins to match the needs of the economy as a result. The 50 centimo was minted in relatively high numbers, ensuring it was a common sight across the country. But for collectors today, the coin carries added meaning because it belongs to a series that was later discontinued when the new BSP series was introduced in 1995. Historically, the 1992 coin reflects the political and economic climate of the Philippines during the presidency of Fidel Ramos, who took office in June 1992. The nation at that time was in transition, moving past years of political turbulence and looking toward modernization programs. Coins like the 50 centimo of 1992 circulated during this new era of optimism, growth, and reform, making them silent witnesses to history. From a numismatic perspective, The 50 centimo coin of 1992 is valued not for its metallic content, but for its design, artistry, historical associations, and place in the timeline of Philippine coinage. Collectors analyze its strike quality, its edge condition, and whether it retains its original luster. Mint state examples are highly prized, while circulated coins hold sentimental and educational value. What makes this coin truly special is how it merges literature, nature, and economy into one object. Balagtas on the obverse speaks of the human soul and the flowering of national literature. The wailing orchid on the reverse speaks of the natural riches of the land, and the coin itself, as a medium of trade, speaks of the living economy of the Filipino people together. These three aspects make the 1992 50 centimo coin not just an artifact of commerce, but a cultural emblem. When we place this coin in a broader global context, it also reflects how nations use currency to tell stories. Many countries have used coins to commemorate leaders, events, animals, and plants. But the Philippines, through its Flora and Fauna series, uniquely highlighted both its heroes and its biodiversity, making the 1992 50 centimo coin a small golden bridge between human history and natural beauties. We continue to explore this coin in detail. For the next chapters of this story, we will examine the minting process, the technical specifications, the transition from the Ang Bagong Lipunan series to the Flora and Fauna series, the economic environment of early 1990s Philippines, the cultural importance of Francisco Balagtas, the symbolic power of the wailing orchid, and the ultimate phase out of this coin from circulation. By the mid-1990s, every angle tells us why this seemingly simple piece of change is in fact a time capsule carrying history, art, and meaning across decades and into our hands today. When we look at the story of the 1992 50 centimo coin, we must begin by asking, why did the Philippines even choose to issue this specific design at that point in time? The answer lies in the broader history of the Flora and Fauna coin series that had started back in 1983. The central bank wanted to move away from purely political or colonial-inspired designs and create something uniquely Filipino that showcased the natural beauty of the archipelago while still honoring historical figures. And this was a carefully thought-out project, because currency is not just an economic tool, it is also a symbol of national identity. Inclusion of Francisco Balagtas on the obverse of the 50 centimo coin was a continuation of the policy of placing national heroes on coins. Balagtas was not just a poet, he was a man whose literary works inspired national consciousness. His writings were full of themes of justice, freedom, and love of country. His masterpiece, Florante et Laura, became a mirror of Philippine society and its struggles under oppression. By placing him on the coin, the government was subtly reminding every Filipino who held it that their cultural foundation was strong, their language and literature were worth preserving, and that they too had the power to dream of freedom and justice. Now when we shift our attention to the reverse side of the coin, the wailing orchid deserves its own chapter. This orchid was discovered in Mindanao in the late 19th century and quickly earned the title Queen of Philippine Flowers for its size, beauty, and rarity. By choosing the wailing, the coin designers were not just decorating the currency with a flower. They were making a bold statement about conservation, about pride in biodiversity, and about the Philippines being a treasure chest of natural wonders that must be protected even in 1992. Environmental awareness was growing, and the choice of Flora for the coin design connected nature with national pride. The composition of the coin is also important. It was made of nickel brass, a combination chosen for both durability and aesthetics. Nickel brass coins have a golden yellow color that made them stand out in circulation, and the 50 centimo piece needed to be distinguishable from smaller denominations to avoid confusion. This was practical design, but it also gave the coin a sense of dignity. It looked valuable even though it was less than 1 peso. This psychological aspect of coin design shows how governments use metals not only for durability, but also for influence on public perception. Imagine holding in your hand a small piece of Philippine history that carries the weight of a nation's story, a coin that might seem ordinary at first glance. But when you look deeper, you discover that it is a time capsule of an era of transition, of heritage, and of national identity. This is the 10 centimo coin of 1979, a coin that represents more than its face value, a coin that is tied to the daily lives of millions of Filipinos, a coin that has survived the test of time through decades, of circulation changes in economy and the evolution of the Republic of the Philippines. The 1979 10 centimo coin was part of the Ang Bagong Lipunan series introduced in the 1970s under the administration of Ferdinand Marcos. It was not just a simple coin, but rather a symbol of a political movement and a reflection of the government's vision for a new society. This coin circulated widely among the people and carried with it the weight of propaganda, the intent of nation-building, and the attempt to establish unity during a period of martial law. The design of the coin tells us a story. The obverse side features Francisco Baltazar, also known as Francisco Balagtas, the most celebrated Filipino poet and playwright, often regarded as the father of Tagalog literature. His presence on the coin was not a random choice. It was deliberate, a reminder of the Filipino identity rooted in literature, art, and cultural heritage. The portrait of Balagtas was engraved in detail, capturing the image of a man whose words inspired nationalism and pride in language and culture. On the reverse side of the 10 centimo coin of 1979 is the official seal of the Central Bank of the Philippines, encircled with the words Republika ng Pilipinas. This side carried the official authority of the nation and the state. It bore the numerical value 10 to indicate its denomination, and the year of minting 1979. Together, these features made the coin both practical for daily use and symbolic for national pride. The material composition of the coin was aluminum, lightweight, durable, and inexpensive, which made it possible for the coin to be produced in great quantities and easily circulated across the nation. The use of aluminum also reflected the economic reality of the Philippines during that period, where affordability and practicality in coinage was a priority. The historical background of this coin is deeply rooted in the political climate of the late 1970s. During this time, the Philippines was under martial law declared in 1972 and extended throughout the decade. The Ang Bagong Lipunan, or New Society program, was an initiative to instill discipline, order, and a new sense of national unity. Coins of this series, including the 10 centimo, served as subtle tools of propaganda. They constantly reminded the people of the government's attempt to reshape society, while also keeping alive the image of Filipino heroes like Francisco Baltazar by associating him with values of culture and identity in daily life. The 10 centimo coin was widely used during the 1970s and early 1980s. It was commonly exchanged in markets, jeepney fares, sari stores, and daily transactions. It was the kind of coin that every Filipino carried in their pocket. Yet, many did not stop to consider the historical value or the symbolism behind it. Although its purchasing power was small, it had significant meaning because it was part of the larger framework of currency that sustained the economy of the nation. For the average Filipino, it was the coin you would give to children for simple treats like candies or small items in local stores. From a numismatic perspective, the 1979 10 centimo coin is a fascinating artifact because it belongs to a series that was transitional in design and concept earlier. Philippine coins featured more generic designs such as national seals or symbolic images, but the Ang Bagong Lipunan coins highlighted heroes and writers, connecting them directly with the daily lives of citizens. This shift in design philosophy makes the coin a valuable collectible, especially for those who focus on the political and cultural narrative of coins. The legacy of Francisco Baltazar on the coin is also essential. His literary Works, especially Florante at Laura, were fundamental in shaping the Filipino national consciousness. In the 19th century, his presence on the coin in 1979 linked the struggle for cultural identity in the past with the aspirations of the present. Under martial law, it reminded Filipinos that their culture and literature were powerful tools of unity and resistance, even though the coin itself was small and ordinary. Its symbolism ran deep in the fabric of society. Over the decades, many of these coins have disappeared from circulation as the currency system of the Philippines evolved. The Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas introduced new series in the 1980s and 1990s, which eventually replaced the Ang Bagong Lipunan series today, finding a 1979 10-centimo coin in circulation is nearly impossible, but collectors and historians value them not for their face value, but for their story. These coins are often preserved in numismatic collections, both in the Philippines and internationally, as tangible reminders of an era that shaped modern Philippine history. For collectors, the condition of the coin is very important. Uncirculated specimens or coins that retain their original luster are considered highly collectible, although the 10-centimo denomination was low in value. Its historical and cultural significance elevates its worth in the eyes of enthusiasts. Some collectors even specialize in completing the full Ang Bagong Lipunan set, where the 1979 10-centimo coin plays an important role. This coin also serves as a teaching tool for younger generations. It can tell us about the economic realities of the Philippines in the late 1970s, the political ideologies that shaped currency design, the lives of cultural heroes, like Francisco Baltazar, and the experience of ordinary Filipinos in their daily transactions. By studying this small piece of metal, we uncover the bigger picture of national identity, resilience, and history. The 10-centimo coin of 1979 was more than a mere token of exchange. It was part of a broader narrative of nation-building during a turbulent period. It carried the image of a poet who spoke of love, of freedom, and of culture, and it circulated in the hands of citizens who were living through profound political change. Today, it stands as a relic of a time when every coin was more than money. It was a message, a piece of propaganda, a cultural artifact, and a symbol of identity. If you are holding one of these coins, you are not just holding aluminum. You are holding a story. You are holding a piece of history. You are holding the legacy of Francisco Baltazar and the imprint of an era that sought to redefine the Philippines. The 10-centimo coin of 1979 is small in size, but vast in meaning, and it remains an enduring reminder that even the smallest coins can carry the biggest stories. Imagine holding in your hand a small coin that carries with it not only the weight of its metal, but also the story of a nation's journey through history, economics, culture, and identity. The 25-centimo coin of 1982 is not just a piece of currency. It is a window into the Philippines at a time when its people and government were navigating both internal challenges and global changes. The 1982 25-centimo coin was part of the Flora and Fauna series introduced by the Central Bank of the Philippines, a bold step that aimed to celebrate the nation's rich natural heritage by placing native plants and animals on the face of its coinage. This decision was more than just artistic. It was political, cultural, and economic at a time. When the country was struggling under political turbulence, the showcasing of national pride through coins became a subtle yet powerful reminder of Filipino resilience and unity. The coin itself was struck in nickel brass, a durable alloy that gave the coin a distinct yellowish hue, setting it apart from earlier issues that were typically in copper-nickel. The metal choice was strategic. It reflected a global trend of many countries moving to lower cost, but still durable alloys in order to sustain large-scale minting. During times of economic strain, the size of the coin was 20 millimeters in diameter and weighed around 3. 8 grams, a carefully chosen dimension that made it easy to recognize and practical to use in everyday trade. The obverse side of the coin featured the portrait of Juan Luna, the great Filipino painter, sculptor, and revolutionary, a national figure, whose art and political involvement symbolized the intellectual and cultural awakening of the Filipino nation in the late 19th century. His stern gaze on the coin reminded every Filipino who touched it of the fight for identity and independence. This choice of Luna was deliberate. It linked the coin to ideals of patriotism and national pride. The reverse side of the coin depicted the Philippine national flower, the sampaguita, a small white flower known for its fragrance and its symbolic meaning of purity, humility, and strength. This floral symbol stood as a reminder that even in adversity, the Filipino spirit is capable of blooming with grace and resilience. The year 1982, placed at the bottom of the reverse, marked not only the minting date but also a period of global and national transformation. In that year, the Philippines was still under the rule of Ferdinand Marcos, whose regime had begun to face increasing resistance both domestically and internationally. The economy was suffering, debt levels were rising, and inflation was eroding the value of money. Thus, every coin in circulation carried with it both the burden of economic struggle and the hope of recovery. The 25-centimo coin was not just currency, it was an object of daily necessity that passed through millions of hands, buying food, paying fares, supporting livelihoods, and enabling the smallest acts of commerce in markets and streets across the archipelago. It represented accessibility because its denomination was small enough to be part of everyday exchanges, but also essential enough to keep the economic system flowing in numismatic terms. The 1982 coin was part of a significant series that collectors today find meaningful for its artistry, historical context, and symbolism. Minting numbers were high as the coin was widely circulated. Though specific mintage figures vary, collectors today often evaluate the coin based on condition, with uncirculated or proof versions being particularly desirable. It is worth noting that during this period, the Central Bank of the Philippines experimented with coin designs that emphasized national identity as a way of differentiating from earlier American-influenced currency designs. The 25-centimo coin of 1982 became an emblem of this shift from colonial echoes to uniquely Filipino imagery. When examining the coin closely, one can also notice the craftsmanship of the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas minting process, the clarity of Luna's portrait, the delicate detail of the sampaguita, the precise lettering of the inscription Republika ng Pilipinas. All of these elements demonstrated the technical capability of the mint as well as its commitment to producing coins that balanced utility with national pride. To extend the narrative further, the coin also invites us to reflect on the broader role of minor denominations in society. Often overlooked, these small coins are the lifeblood of economies. They enable transport systems, traditional markets, and daily life for millions. They carry stories in their scratches and wear each mark, revealing how they moved from person to person, carrying history across generations. Today, as many 25-centimo coins from 1982 are no longer in circulation, they have taken on new life as collectibles and historical artifacts. Numismatists treasure them not only for their rarity and higher grades, but also for the story they tell about a nation in flux. The coin connects the world of collectors to the world of ordinary Filipinos of the past, bridging gaps between economics, history, culture, and personal memory. And so when you hold a 1982 25-centimo coin, you are not simply holding metal. You are holding the legacy of Juan Luna, the fragrance of the sampaguita, the resilience of a people under pressure, the craftsmanship of a mint, and the echoes of countless daily exchanges that kept a nation alive and moving forward. This coin is more than its face value. It is a living chapter of Philippine history, waiting to be rediscovered, retold, and remembered by every new generation that dares to look closely at what small change can reveal. Good. This is where we begin to expand the story into a longer flowing narrative, because to truly understand the 25 centimo 1982 coin, we must stretch our view beyond the metal and the mint mark and dive into the deeper stories of the time, the people, the art, the economy, and the daily lives that gave this coin its place in Philippine history. Let us take the obverse side first. Juan Luna, the man whose portrait gazes from the coin. His story cannot be told in a few sentences, because Luna was not just a painter, he was a symbol of the intellectual force behind Philippine nationalism. Born in Badoc, Ilocos Norte in 1857, Luna traveled to Europe where his artistic skills flourished in Spain. He trained at the Escuela de Bellas Artes de San Fernando, where his natural talent in painting was sharpened to professional mastery in 1884. His masterpiece Spoliarium won the first gold medal at the Exposición Nacional de Bellas Artes in Madrid. This was not just a personal victory, but a collective moment of pride for the Filipino community in Spain and a spark that fueled nationalist sentiment. The Spoliarium showed dying gladiators being dragged away, stripped of dignity and life. Many Filipinos saw this as an allegory of their own suffering under colonial rule. Luna thus became a hero, not only for his brush but also for his bravery in presenting the struggles of his people through art. By placing his image on the 25 centimo coin in 1982, the central bank honored his role as both artist and revolutionary, giving every Filipino who used the coin a connection to the intellectual fight for freedom. Now let us look at the reverse. The Sampaguita flower chosen for the Flora and Fauna coin series. The Sampaguita, or Jasminum sambac, has long been a symbol of purity, devotion, and simplicity in Philippine culture. Its small white blossoms are often used in garlands to honor guests, saints, and heroes. It is also connected to folklore and traditions where the fragility of its petals reminds Filipinos of humility, while its enduring fragrance symbolizes strength and loyalty. By featuring this flower on the coin, the government emphasized values that were both cultural and moral. It reminded Filipinos that greatness comes not only from power, but also from purity of heart and devotion to community. In 1934, the Sampaguita was declared the national flower of the Philippines, and by the time it appeared on the coin in 1982, it was already deeply ingrained as part of the national identity. Thus, the coin itself balanced human achievement through Juan Luna with natural beauty through the Sampaguita. The year 1982 was no ordinary year for the Philippines. This was the period of Ferdinand Marcos's presidency, a regime marked by martial law, political control, and economic turbulence. Although martial law was officially lifted in 1981, the political environment in 1982 was still heavily authoritarian. Freedom of speech and press remained restricted, and the economy was beginning to show cracks. Rising external debt inflation and currency devaluation were squeezing ordinary Filipinos. Thus, every coin in circulation became more than a medium of exchange. It became a symbol of the shrinking value of money, while also a lifeline for daily survival. The 25 centimo coin was small but crucial. It paid jeepney fares. It bought street food. It contributed to small market purchases, and it circulated endlessly in the lives of workers, students, and families. From a numismatic point of view, the 25 centimo 1982 belongs to the Flora and Fauna series introduced in 1983, officially, but coins dated 1982 were struck in preparation for the release. The series ran until 1994, and it marked a shift from political figures to national plants and animals combined with historical heroes. The intent was educational, cultural, and patriotic. By circulating these coins, the government spread national symbols to every household, making heroes, flowers, and animals part of everyday life. The technical details matter too. The coin was struck in nickel brass, which gave it durability, and a gold-like color at 20 millimeters in diameter and weighing 3.8 grams. It was light enough to carry in bulk, yet heavy enough to be distinguished from aluminum centavo coins. Imagine holding in your hand a piece of history so small and yet so powerful that it carries the story of an entire nation. A coin that passed from hand to hand in markets, in schools, in transportation, in daily wages, in the lives of ordinary Filipinos. The 25 centimo coin of 1977 is one such piece, a silent witness to the political, economic, and cultural shifts of the Philippines during a turbulent decade. Now imagine uncovering the hidden stories behind its creation, its symbolism, its use, and its role in the broader narrative of Philippine currency. This is not just a coin. This is a key to understanding the Philippines in the 1970s. The 25 centimo coin issued in 1977 came at a time when the Philippines was under the administration of President Ferdinand Marcos, who had declared martial law in 1972 and ruled with a mix of modernization projects and political control. The currency system of the country was already under the oversight of the Central Bank of the Philippines, known as Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, which had been working since the post-war years to modernize and unify the Philippine monetary system. The introduction of the 25 centimo coin was not merely about convenience, it was also about identity, national pride, and the effort to create a coinage system that reflected the heritage of the Filipino people. The obverse of the 1977 25 centimo coin features a profile of Juan Luna, one of the most celebrated Filipino painters and political activists of the late 19th century. Juan Luna was famous for works such as Spoliarium, which carried a deep nationalistic symbolism. He became a hero not only through his art, but also through his political engagement with the propaganda movement that worked toward reform during the Spanish colonial period. Placing Juan Luna on the coin was a deliberate choice by the government to celebrate intellectual and artistic achievement as well as patriotism. It was meant to inspire pride in cultural identity, while reminding Filipinos of their heritage. On the reverse side of the coin, the design bears the coat of arms of the Republic of the Philippines, along with the name of the country Republika ng Pilipinas, and the year of mintage, 1977. The presence of the national coat of arms emphasized sovereignty, unity, and the strength of the Republic at a time when the government sought to project authority and legitimacy to both domestic and international audiences. The denomination of 25 centimo was prominently displayed, symbolizing the practical everyday use of the coin. The material composition of the 1977 25 centimo coin was primarily copper-nickel, chosen for durability, affordability, and resistance to wear, as the coin was meant for widespread circulation in daily transactions. The size, weight, and metallic content were carefully standardized to align with the other denominations in the coinage system. Introduced in the 1970s, each coin from 1 centimo up to 1 peso was designed not only to serve a monetary function, but also to educate the public about national heroes and national identity by featuring a portrait on the obverse and the national seal on the reverse. During this time, inflationary pressures were beginning to affect the Philippine economy, partly due to global oil shocks and internal fiscal challenges. The 25 centimo coin, however, still carried considerable purchasing power. It could buy small snacks, street food, public transport rides, or school supplies. It was a coin that circulated in every pocket and in every community, from urban centers like Manila to rural provinces across the archipelago. Every Filipino child who was given allowance money, every jeepney driver collecting fares, every vendor making change was handling this coin on a daily basis. The history of this coin cannot be separated from the broader narrative of Philippine coinage reform. The 1970s marked a period of redesigning currency to reflect national heroes, artists, and leaders, in contrast to earlier decades when coins bore more generic designs or reflected colonial influences. By placing Juan Luna on the 25 centimo coin, the government sought to connect the Filipino people to their historical struggle for freedom and cultural pride. Collectors today value the 1977 25 centimo coin not only for its numismatic worth, but also for its historical significance. It is part of the Flora and Fauna series and the Ang Bagong Lipunan series that marked the Marcos era. Coinage depending on condition, mint luster, and rarity in circulation. The coin may fetch modest collector interest, but the true value lies in its story. As a physical reminder of the past, some coins remain well preserved while others show the scars of heavy use, each scratch, dent, and wear pattern telling a story of how it traveled across time. When examining the coin in detail, the artistry becomes evident: the fine lines in the portrait of Juan Luna, the clear engraving of the national coat of arms, the bold year 1977, and the smooth edges that mark the modern minting techniques of the central bank. These details not only ensured security against counterfeiting, but also symbolized the pride taken in producing a national currency that could stand alongside other nations' coins in terms of quality and design. The coin also serves as a cultural mirror by studying its imagery, its size, its circulation, and its lifespan. One gains insights into the lives of ordinary Filipinos during the late 1970s. This was a time of shifting political landscapes, economic challenges, and cultural assertion through art and history. The 25 centimo coin carried the weight of this context. Even though it seemed small in denomination over time, the 25 centimo coin of 1977 was gradually replaced in circulation by newer designs and newer series reflecting further shifts in Philippine currency policy. The Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas continuously sought to modernize coinage, reduce costs, and introduce themes more aligned with the changing identity of the nation. By the later decades of the 20th century, many of these coins were phased out, and today they are more often found in collections, displays, or forgotten drawers rather than in everyday wallets. Yet the story of the 25 centimo 1977 coin remains alive in the hearts of numismatists, historians, and collectors who see in it not just metal, but memory, not just currency, but culture. It is a testament to how something so small can tell a story so vast, and when you hold it in your hand, you are holding a chapter of Philippine history. Imagine holding in your hand a small piece of metal that carries the weight of an entire nation's history and identity, a coin that is often overlooked and dismissed as just a fraction of currency. But in truth, it is a witness to political change, to cultural transformation, and to the economic struggles of the people. This is the story of the 25 centimo coin of 1972 from the Philippines, a coin that may appear ordinary in size and value, but is in reality deeply extraordinary in meaning because behind its design, its material, its minting process, and the events surrounding its circulation lies a fascinating journey that stretches across decades of Philippine history. The 25 centimo coin of 1972 was released during a time of dramatic shifts. In the Philippines, the year 1972 was not just another year. It was the year when President Ferdinand Marcos declared martial law, transforming the nation's political system and changing the lives of millions of Filipinos forever. And this small 25 centimo coin became part of that turbulent chapter, silently exchanged in the markets, in the schools, in the churches, and in the everyday hands of Filipinos. It tells us about the economic policies of the era, about inflation, about the transition of the currency system, and about the identity that the government wanted to project to the people and the world. Now, to understand the importance of this coin, we must go back to the roots of Philippine coinage and trace how the centavo or centimo evolved in the Philippine monetary system. Since Spanish times, the Philippines had used coinage introduced by colonizers from Spain to America, but in 1967, a turning point came when the Philippine government introduced the Filipino series of coins, for the first time featuring Tagalog inscriptions instead of English. This was a deliberate cultural shift, a nationalist move to promote Filipino identity and language, and by the time 1972 came, this identity was further strengthened with the coinage, reflecting local heroes' Filipino names and national symbols. The 25 centimo coin stood right in the middle of this historic change. The coin itself was struck in nickel brass, an alloy chosen for durability and longevity because small denomination. Coins like the 25 centimo were heavily used in daily trade. Its obverse proudly displayed the bust of Juan Luna, the great Filipino painter and nationalist who created the famous Spoliarium, a painting that became a symbol of Filipino resilience. And artistry, Luna was more than an artist. He was also a patriot who fought for reforms during the Spanish colonial period. Placing him on the coin gave the 25 centimo of 1972 a strong sense of Filipino pride and cultural identity surrounding Luna's portrait were the inscriptions Republika ng Pilipinas and the year 1972, a declaration that the Philippines was shaping its own symbols and placing its heroes at the center of national life. On the reverse side, the coin bore the national coat of Arms of the Philippines, the shield divided into symbols of Spanish, American, and Filipino heritage, the 3 stars representing Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao, and the sun shining with 8 rays symbolizing the first provinces that revolted against Spain. Around the emblem was inscribed the value 25 centimo, a simple but powerful representation of nationhood and unity. But coins are never just about design, they are also economic tools. And in 1972, the Philippine economy was in transition. The Marcos administration was pursuing ambitious infrastructure projects while also dealing with rising inflation and increasing foreign debt. Coins like the 25 centimo circulated in massive numbers because they were essential in daily purchases, from jeepney fares to basic goods in the marketplace. During this time, the 25 centimo carried real purchasing power. Unlike today, when such small denominations are often dismissed. In 1972, you could still buy candies, bread, or even ride public transportation with a handful of centimo coins. So the coin was not just a collector's item, it was a lifeline in daily Filipino economic life. Now let us look at the minting of this coin. The 25 centimo 1972 was minted by the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, the Central Bank of the Philippines, which had been established in 1949 following independence from the United States. The minting process involved preparing nickel brass blanks, striking them with high-pressure dies, and ensuring uniformity and durability. Because the coin was so widely used, quality control was extremely important. The mintage numbers of the 25 centimo coin were high, which ensured availability across the archipelago. But the survival of these coins in fine condition today is relatively rare. Since most were heavily circulated and worn down by decades of use, collectors today see the 25 centimo 1972 coin as part of the historical Filipino series, which ran from 1967 to 1974, before being replaced by the Ang Bagong Lipunan series during martial law. That series carried the branding of the Marcos regime, but the 1972 25 centimo was one of the last coins before that political imprint took over. It represents a kind of transitional phase in Philippine coinage, when the emphasis was still cultural and historical rather than political. The coin's value to collectors depends on condition, mint luster, and rarity in circulation. A worn example might not fetch more than a few pesos, but an uncirculated coin with sharp details and golden brass brilliance could attract interest from numismatists, particularly those who specialize in Philippine coinage or Southeast Asian currencies beyond financial worth. However, the 25 centimo 1972 coin holds immense historical and cultural value. It is a time capsule that brings us back to a year that defined Philippine politics, society, and identity. To appreciate the coin fully, we must also consider Juan Luna's role in Philippine history. He was not only a painter, but also a reformist. Tied to the propaganda movement alongside Jose Rizal and Marcelo del Pilar, his works and actions helped fuel Filipino nationalism, and placing his image on the coin was a deliberate reminder that the nation was built not only by revolutionaries with swords, but also by intellectuals and artists who shaped the consciousness of the people. Every time a Filipino held the 25-centimo coin of 1972, they were unknowingly carrying with them the face of a man who embodied the struggle for dignity and freedom. As we continue to analyze this coin, we uncover layer upon layer of meaning. The material shows us the technology of minting. At the time, the design shows us the values the government wanted to highlight. The year 1972 shows us the crossroads of Philippine history when democracy shifted to authoritarianism, and the circulation shows us how ordinary Filipinos lived, traded, and survived in their daily lives. It is not just a coin, it is a silent witness, a teacher, and a story in itself. So, when we hold the 25-centimo coin of 1972, we are not simply holding brass. We are holding the echoes of the marketplace, the sounds of jeepneys, the voices of schoolchildren, the hands of workers and farmers. We are holding a symbol of national pride. At a time of uncertainty, we are holding a reminder of Filipino artistry and resilience, and most of all, we are holding a chapter of history that continues to speak even after 50 years. And that is why the 25-centimo coin of 1972 is not just money, it is memory, it is heritage, and it is a story worth telling again and again. Imagine holding in your hand a small copper-colored piece of history, a coin that many would overlook in their daily transactions. Yet behind this humble piece lies a story that spans decades of Philippine culture, economy, and heritage. The 25-centimo coin of 1970 is not merely a fraction of a peso. It is a symbol of a nation in transition, a period when the Philippines was undergoing political, economic, and cultural change, and the country's coinage was evolving to reflect those transformations. And today, we will journey deep into the history of this coin, exploring its origins, its design, its composition, its role in circulation, and the historical context in which it was minted. Because every scratch and every mark on a coin carries the weight of the past, and the 25-centimo coin of 1970 carries with it a narrative that tells us about the people who used it, the government that issued it, and the times in which it existed. The 25-centimo coin of 1970 was part of the Filipino series, introduced by the Central Bank of the Philippines or Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, which began circulating in 1967. This series was significant because it was the first time the national language Filipino was used prominently on coins. Before this series, most coins were inscribed in English, reflecting the long colonial influence of the United States. But by the late 1960s, the Philippines was asserting its cultural identity and promoting the Filipino language across all aspects of life, including its currency, and so the 25-centimo coin bore inscriptions in Filipino, showing the pride of the nation in its language and heritage. The coin itself was minted in copper-nickel, a blend chosen for its durability and resistance to wear since coins. In smaller denominations, circulated widely in everyday markets from jeepney fairs to public markets to small stores and vendors. The obverse or front of the coin carried the image of Juan Luna, one of the most celebrated Filipino painters and revolutionaries. Of the 19th century, Luna was famous not only for his art, but also for his role in inspiring nationalism during the Spanish colonial era. His masterpiece Spoliarium had won international acclaim and symbolized the suffering and resilience of the Filipino people. Placing his portrait on the 25-centimo coin was a deliberate choice to remind citizens daily of their cultural pride and national heroes. On the reverse or backside of the coin, the design featured the coat of arms of the Republic of the Philippines, a shield divided into sections showing the symbols of the country's colonial past and its aspirations for sovereignty. The sun, with its rays, symbolized freedom, while the three stars stood for Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao, the major island groups of the nation. This imagery reinforced the idea of unity and independence. Every time the coin changed hands, it carried with it a reminder of national identity and pride. Now, why was 1970 particularly important for this coin series? The year 1970 fell under the presidency of Ferdinand Marcos, who had been elected in 1965 and re-elected in 1969. His administration was heavily marked by ambitious infrastructure projects, foreign loans, and a growing tension in the political climate. By 1972, martial law would be declared, changing the country dramatically, but in 1970 the Philippines was still in a pre-martial law state, a period of both optimism and unrest. The economy was experiencing inflation, labor movements were gaining strength, and student activism was rising in the universities. Coins like the 25 centimo were part of everyday transactions, but they also existed within this larger historical and political framework. The production of these coins was carried out both domestically and with the help of international mints. The central bank sought to ensure that the coins would meet standards of durability and precision, because coins are more than monetary tools. They are ambassadors of a nation's identity, to both its people and the outside world. In fact, numismatists, coin collectors, and historians look at the 25 centimo coin of 1970 as an important artifact because it represents not just economic utility, but a record of the language, design, and historical personalities valued by the nation at the time in circulation. The coin was commonly used for small purchases. Jeepney fares were a few centavos. Market items, such as vegetables, rice, and snacks, were traded daily with denominations like the 25 centimo. Being central to commerce, children were often given these coins as allowances, and they jingled in the pockets of ordinary citizens across the archipelago. When we think about it, every coin that passed through a market stall, a classroom, a street vendor, or a bus conductor carried not just monetary value, but also a sense of nationhood. Over time, the design of the 25 centimo would evolve as new series were introduced, such as the Flora and Fauna series and later the BSP series. But the 1970 issue remains especially significant because it was part of the pioneering Filipino series, the series that boldly asserted the use of the Filipino language and national heroes in coinage for collectors today. The 25 centimo coin of 1970 holds both sentimental and historical value while not extremely rare in its standard form. Certain specimens with unique mint errors or coins preserved in uncirculated condition command higher interest in the numismatic community beyond monetary value. However, the coin's real worth lies in the story it tells and the history it represents. It is a piece that connects us to the struggles and triumphs of the Filipino people of the late 1960s and early 1970s. So when you look at this small, copper-nickel coin dated 1970, you are not simply looking at change from someone's pocket. You are looking at a fragment of art, politics, culture, and history intertwined. The coin tells us of Juan Luna, whose art ignited national consciousness. It tells us of a government eager to display Filipino pride in its language and symbols. It tells us of an economy where every centimo mattered to ordinary people. It tells us of a nation standing at the edge of great change as it entered one of the most turbulent decades in its modern history. And as we go deeper into its story for the next 2 hours, we will explore how this coin was made, how it was distributed, what its role was in everyday commerce, how its design was chosen, how it compared to earlier and later issues, and what its legacy is today in both the numismatic world and in the collective memory of the Philippines, because the story of the 25 centimo coin of 1970 is not just about metal, it is about the spirit of a nation, stamped into every piece that passed through countless hands across generations. And in that way, this coin becomes not just money, but a timeless messenger of history. Imagine holding a coin that is more than just a small piece of metal, but rather a silent witness to a nation's journey through time. A coin that carries with it the spirit of an era, the reflection of an economy, and the pride of a people. The 50 centimo coin of 1972 from the Philippines is exactly that. A piece of circulating history that captures the shifting landscape of a country in a period of political transformation, economic struggle, and national identity. This coin is not merely a denomination. It is an emblem of what the Philippines stood for in the early 70s and why collectors, historians, and numismatists value it so highly. Today, the 50 centimo coin of 1972 was part of the Filipino series, which was introduced to replace the English series coins that had dominated since the American colonial period. The switch was more than cosmetic. It represented a cultural revival and a push for national identity through the Filipino language and symbols as the Philippines inched closer toward a new political direction under Ferdinand Marcos. The use of Filipino on currency became a subtle yet powerful symbol of independence and pride. The coin itself features on its obverse the profile of Marcelo H. del Pilar I, of the nation's greatest patriots, journalists, and revolutionaries, known for his writings in La Solidaridad, where he exposed abuses under Spanish rule. His face on the coin is not just an artistic rendering, but a reminder of the struggles fought for freedom and justice. On the reverse side, the national coat of arms is proudly displayed, representing sovereignty, resilience, and the Filipino spirit. Each detail, from the sunburst to the stars surrounding the shield, reflects the ideals that guided the republic. Minted in copper nickel, the 1972 50 centimo was modest in value but significant in meaning. Its weight, its diameter, and its metallic composition were designed to align with practical circulation needs while also ensuring durability. As the coin passed from hand to hand in markets, in schools, in jeepney fairs, and in countless everyday transactions for many Filipinos in the 70s, this coin was part of daily life. Yet as time passed, its historical value began to overshadow its practical worth. The year 1972 was also a critical one for the Philippines as it marked the declaration of martial law by President Marcos. This political backdrop adds even more weight to the 50 centimo coin of that year as it circulated in an atmosphere of control, censorship, and changing national dynamics. Every coin that exchanged hands during this time was part of a complex story where ordinary citizens faced extraordinary challenges. In many ways, coins like the 50 centimo became silent companions to the struggles of that generation. Collectors today prize the 1972 50 centimo, not just for its design but for its place in history. Numismatists often point to the cultural and political importance of this coin as a reflection of the Filipino series' goals to unify language, honor heroes, and strengthen national pride. Coins in higher grades, especially those preserved in mint state condition, command attention in auctions and private collections, and even circulated specimens are valued for their symbolic worth. The scarcity of pristine examples adds to their allure since most coins were heavily used in everyday transactions by ordinary citizens. To truly appreciate this coin, one must also look at the life of Marcelo H. del Pilar, the man immortalized on its face. He was not just a reformist, but also a revolutionary thinker who believed in freedom of expression and equality. His writings ignited the flames of nationalism and inspired generations of Filipinos to dream of an independent nation. Placing his image on the 50 centimo coin in 1972 was more than a tribute. It was an intentional reminder of the need for vigilance, courage, and patriotism during uncertain times. As a numismatic artifact, the 1972 50 centimo provides insight into design trends, coinage policy, and the practical economic realities of the Philippines during the early 70s. It bridges the gap between utility and symbolism, between economics and culture, between past struggles and present appreciation. Its survival in collections around the world ensures that this small coin continues to tell a big story, one that spans heroes, revolutions, national identity, and the resilience of a people. The next time you hold or see a 1972 50 centimo coin, imagine the hands. It may have passed through the goods it may have purchased, the voices it may have heard in bustling marketplaces or quiet conversations, and the era it silently represents for a 2-hour exploration of its History 1 could dive into the biography of Del Pilar, the detailed symbolism of the national coat of arms, the evolution of the Filipino coinage series, the socio-political climate of martial law, the production process of coins at the mint, the economic value of small denominations in daily Filipino life, and the journey of this coin from circulation to collector's item. Each angle reveals another layer of significance, making the 1972 50 centimo not just a coin, but a historical time capsule. When we look at the 50 centimo coin of 1972, we are not simply looking at a piece of change that once passed from pocket to pocket. We are looking at a symbol of the Philippines at a time of great transition, a time when the nation stood between its revolutionary past and its uncertain political present, and when the people themselves were seeking identity, strength, and resilience through even the smallest objects of daily life. The coin was minted in a composition of copper-nickel, chosen not only for its durability, but also for its suitability in everyday transactions. Its size and weight were deliberately crafted to make it distinct enough from lower denominations so that the public could easily identify it in the course of trade. The obverse design features Marcelo Hilario del Pilar, a towering figure in Philippine history. Del Pilar was born in 1850 in Bulacan and became one of the most influential reformists of the late Spanish colonial period. He wrote tirelessly against the abuses of Spanish friars and government officials, using satire, wit, and biting criticism. His most powerful works, published in La Solidaridad in Spain, made him a beacon for Filipino nationalists abroad and a voice for those oppressed. At home, by placing him on the obverse of the coin in 1972, the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas and the designers of the Filipino series were not simply honoring a man, they were declaring to the nation that the struggle for reform and independence must never be forgotten. Every time a citizen looked at the coin, they were reminded of Del Pilar's courage, his sacrifice, and his enduring call for freedom. The reverse of the coin carries the coat of arms of the Republic of the Philippines. This was not simply an artistic flourish, it was the physical embodiment of the state. The shield itself contains symbols of the country's identity: the 3 stars representing Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao; the sun, representing liberty, unity, and democracy; the American eagle and the lion of Castile, recalling the nation's colonial history under both Spain and the United States; and the scroll proudly displaying the words Republika ng Pilipinas. All these symbols together reflected a country forged by history, but striving to move forward under its own sovereign path. The inclusion of the coat of arms on currency reinforced a message of national pride and unity. The story of the 25 centimo coin from 1967 begins with an understanding of the Philippines during the decade of the 60s, a nation that had secured its independence only 2 decades earlier and was still in the process of building an identity that blended its rich heritage with the modern world. The Central Bank of the Philippines, which had been established in 1949, carried the responsibility not only of managing the nation's finances, but also of shaping a currency system that would be trusted by the people and respected by other nations. Coins in this period were more than just instruments of commerce. They were national emblems carried in the hands of millions, and the 25 centimo coin of 1967 was among the most circulated pieces of its era. On its obverse side, the coin bore the portrait of Juan Luna, a choice that was far from accidental. Luna was one of the most celebrated Filipino painters of the late 19th century, whose works, such as the Spoliarium, not only won international awards but also stirred nationalist feelings in the Philippines during the time of Spanish rule. His presence on the coin connected the people of the 1960s to the struggles and triumphs of their forefathers, reminding them of the sacrifices made for independence. It was a visual cue for every Filipino who used the coin in daily trade to remember the cultural and revolutionary spirit that defined their nation. This was the power of numismatic design to turn small metal discs into carriers of historical memory. The reverse side featured the national coat of arms, a symbol that combined echoes of the colonial past with affirmations of sovereignty. The American bald eagle and the Spanish lion were retained from earlier, heraldic designs acknowledging the country's historical ties, but the three stars and the radiant sun symbolized the unity and hope of the Philippine archipelago. The coat of arms thus represented both continuity and change. It told citizens that, while the past shaped their destiny, the present and future were firmly in their hands. Physically, the 25-centimo coin was a practical piece measuring 21 millimeters in diameter and weighing around 4 grams, struck in copper-nickel alloy that gave it a silver-like appearance suitable for heavy circulation. Copper-nickel was chosen for its durability as well as its resistance to wear in a tropical climate where humidity and usage could erode softer metals. The milling on the edge of the coin added both tactile distinction and protection against clipping or counterfeiting. This careful balance of design function and symbolism made the coin both useful and meaningful. By the year 1967, the coin was deeply woven into the life of ordinary Filipinos. It was used in jeepney fares, in buying snacks in markets, in paying for small school supplies, and in countless transactions that formed the rhythm of daily economic life, while larger denominations such as the peso were used for more significant purchases. The smaller centimo coins kept commerce moving at the grassroots level. Their constant circulation meant that they were the coins most frequently handled, and therefore the ones that carried the most wear and tear. This heavy usage is one reason why high-grade surviving examples are scarce today. But to fully appreciate the 25-centimo coin of 1967, one must see it in the wider context of Philippine monetary history. The coin was issued during the English series of coinage, which had begun in 1958 and would last until 1969. This series was characterized by inscriptions in English, such as Republic of the Philippines and Central Bank of the Philippines, but by the late 1960s, there was a growing movement to replace English with Filipino language on coins as part of a cultural policy to strengthen national identity. The 1967 coin therefore represents the final years of an era before the transition to the Filipino series, which would adopt inscriptions like Republika ng Pilipinas. This makes the coin historically significant because it stands at the threshold between two phases of currency evolution. Politically, the late 1960s was a pivotal moment for the Philippines. Ferdinand Marcos had been elected president in 1965, and his early years were marked by ambitious infrastructure projects, modernization programs, and the projection of a strong national image. The issuance of coins bearing heroes like Juan Luna fit perfectly within this vision. Marcos promoted a sense of continuity with the revolutionary past while pushing forward with his agenda of economic and social development. In this sense, coins were part of the cultural landscape, reinforcing state narratives and fostering pride in Filipino identity. The significance of this coin also extends to the world of numismatics. Collectors often categorize it within the transitional group of Philippine coins because it precedes the language shift of 1969 and because its design elements connect both to earlier series and to those that followed. While millions were minted, not many survived in pristine condition because the coin was heavily used in commerce. A circulated coin today is relatively common, but uncirculated specimens with sharp details and original luster are far rarer and thus valued more highly by collectors. Proof-like examples are even more desirable and can command significant attention at auctions and numismatic shows beyond value and rarity. However, the coin's importance lies in the story it tells about. National identity coins are often described as the calling cards of a nation because they travel in pockets and purses across all walks of life and silently communicate messages of heritage and pride. The 25 centimo Coin of 1967 communicated that the Philippines honored its intellectuals and revolutionaries, that it acknowledged its colonial past while striving for sovereignty, and that even the smallest denomination could carry the weight of history when one imagines the journey of a single 25 centimo coin struck in 1967. One can picture it leaving the mint, entering circulation and passing from hand to hand, perhaps given as change in a bustling Manila marketplace, then used again to pay for a ferry, ride across the Pasig River, then carried by a student to school, where it bought a piece of candy from a vendor, then perhaps saved in a jar for family savings. Coins like these circulated widely through rural and urban areas, linking the economic lives of millions. Their silent presence in daily life made them one of the most democratic forms of historical record. In the broader historical arc, the 25 centimo coin of 1967 reminds us that nations are built not only by leaders and monumental events, but also by ordinary people whose daily transactions keep the economy alive. Every coin spent, every coin exchanged, becomes part of a collective narrative, and when preserved, these coins give us tangible connections to the past in this way. The 25 centimo coin serves as a miniature time capsule, carrying the voice of a people and the mark of a period that was as much about continuity as it was about change. Today, when collectors and historians examine the 1967 coin, they are not merely studying its weight or metal. They are revisiting a world they are listening to, echoes of markets, schools, and homes in a decade of aspiration and transition. They are seeing how design, politics, economy, and culture fused into a single everyday object. They are reminded that the smallest coin can open the largest windows into history. Imagine holding in your hand a small piece of metal that carries not only monetary value, but also decades of history, culture, and national identity. A coin that many people see every day in their change without realizing that it represents an entire story of a country, its struggles, its victories, and its evolving economic system. Today we dive into the 25 centimo coin of 2019, a coin that on the surface may look ordinary, but when examined closely reveals a world of knowledge, tradition, artistry, and significance that ties directly to the Republic of the Philippines and its long numismatic journey. The 25 centimo coin, issued in 2019, is part of the New Generation Currency Coin Series, a program launched by the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas to modernize and standardize Philippine coinage while addressing issues of counterfeiting, durability, and ease of use for the public. It is made of nickel-plated steel, giving it a shiny silver-like finish that makes it distinct from older bronze or brass versions of the 25 centimo denomination. The shift to this new material was both practical and symbolic. Practical, because the coin is resistant to corrosion and easier to produce in large quantities. Symbolic, because it marked a turning point in the modernization of Philippine currency design. On the obverse side of the 2019 25 centimo coin, we see the stylized Philippine flag with 3 stars and the sun, which represents unity, freedom, and sovereignty. Surrounding it are the words, Republika ng Pilipinas, and the year of minting 2019. This design represents the values of nationhood and reflects the continuing commitment of the Philippines to honor its independence and history. On the reverse side is the denomination prominently displayed with the image of the catman flower, scientifically known as Dillenia philippinensis, a native flowering plant that has cultural and ecological significance. The use of indigenous flora in coin design symbolizes national pride and emphasizes the importance of protecting the Philippines' unique biodiversity. The history of the 25 centimo denomination stretches far back before the 2019 issue. The centimo as a subunit of the Philippine peso has its origins in the Spanish colonial era, when centavos were used under the peso fuerte system later during American rule. The centavo was also widely circulated and became fully integrated into Philippine coinage. Even after independence, the 25 centimo continued as an important fractional unit serving both practical and symbolic functions in the nation's monetary system. Through the decades, the design materials and imagery of the 25 centimo coin have changed to reflect different eras of governance, economy, and culture. Before the 2019 version, earlier issues of the 25 centimo had distinct features. The 1958 to 1966 coin was minted in bronze, bearing the image of Juan Luna, the revolutionary painter and hero. Later, from 1975, during the Ang Bagong Lipunan series, the coin changed to a smaller brass design with different motifs. In the 1980s and 1990s. During the Flora and Fauna series, the coin bore the image of the Philippine jasmine. And then in the BSP coin series of 1995 onwards, it featured national heroes, like Juan Luna, again, and smaller changes in size and color. Each redesign marked a change in the identity and branding of the nation through its currency. By the time the new generation currency coin series was introduced in 2018 and 2019, the shift was clear. The coins no longer focused on heroes, but on native flora, reinforcing a sense of environmental and cultural heritage. The 25 centimo of 2019 thus became more than a small piece of change. It became an ambassador of Filipino biodiversity and a teaching tool about the country's flora. The catman flower chosen for the coin is endemic to the Philippines. Its large white blossoms and round green fruits are used in traditional medicine for treating coughs and sore throats, and it has culinary uses. As well, this small detail makes the coin a living connection between the everyday economy and the natural world. Economically, the 25 centimo coin represents the challenge of maintaining relevance for low-denomination currency in a time of inflation and rising costs of goods. While its purchasing power may be small, its continued presence in circulation helps stabilize transactions and ensures that exact change can be given in transport fares, markets, and other small-scale purchases. Without it, the public would face difficulties in basic transactions, and so while many dismiss it as insignificant, it plays a vital role in maintaining the efficiency of the cash-based economy of the Philippines. Collectors and numismatists also value the 2019 25 centimo coin, not only for its aesthetic appeal, but for its place in the timeline of Philippine coinage as part of the New Generation series. It is a marker of modern policy decisions by the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas and represents a transitional phase before the potential full shift to digital or cashless payments in the future. As such, the coin is both a current medium of exchange and a historical artifact in the making. The production of these coins was carried out under strict standards. The nickel-plated steel blanks were imported and struck with precision at the mint, ensuring that every detail from the catman flower petals to the rays of the sun was accurately reproduced. Millions of pieces entered circulation in 2019, making the coin accessible to every citizen, from schoolchildren learning to count change to vendors in markets to commuters in jeepneys. Beyond its design and production, the coin reflects the philosophy of inclusiveness and identity in Philippine society. Coins are often considered the face of a nation since they circulate in the hands of both locals and foreigners. The 25 centimo 2019 coin therefore carries with it the image of a Philippines that values its roots, its natural wealth, and its evolving path toward modernization. If we expand further, the story of the 25 centimo coin links us to broader questions about the future of money. What happens to small denomination coins as inflation grows? Will the 25 centimo one day vanish from circulation, or will it remain as a cultural symbol even if its economic utility diminishes? This is the same question many nations have faced with their smallest coins. For example, the United States penny or the Canadian 1-cent coin, which was discontinued in 2012. The Philippine 25 centimo thus serves as both a practical tool and a case study for economic sustainability. In summary, The 2019-25 centimo coin embodies the past, present, and future of Philippine currency. It connects us to the long history of the centimo denomination. It represents the cultural shift from heroes to flora in coin design. It carries practical importance in everyday commerce, and it raises profound questions about the role of coins in a changing world. A coin so small in value, yet so rich in meaning, that when studied deeply can provide a 2-hour exploration of Philippine history, economy, culture, and identity. Imagine holding in your hand a simple silver-colored coin that at first glance looks ordinary and modern, but in reality tells a story that stretches across centuries of Philippine history, economy, culture, and national identity. This is the one. Peso coin of 2018, a small piece of metal that carries the weight of change, reform, and symbolism. And in this video, we will unlock its history layer by layer. The 1 peso coin of 2018 is part of the new generation currency coin series introduced by the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas with the aim of modernizing the country's coinage system and creating a unified series that not only reflects the values of the nation, but also addresses the economic and technological needs of the present era. The coin was first released in March of 2018 and immediately attracted attention both for its sleek modern appearance and the controversies surrounding its design. At the center of the obverse face of the coin is the image of Jose Rizal, the national hero of the Philippines, whose life and works fueled the flames of nationalism during the late 19th century. By placing him on the 1 peso coin, the government reinforced the enduring relevance of his ideals. The portrait of Rizal on the coin was carefully designed to project simplicity, clarity, and dignity, contrasting with earlier designs that often showed more elaborate elements. The choice reflected a push towards a more minimalist and contemporary style that aligned with global trends in currency design. On the reverse side of the 2018 1 peso coin, you see the stylized image of the wailing orchid, which is considered the queen of Philippine flowers, known for its striking beauty and rarity. The inclusion of this national symbol emphasized the importance of biodiversity and natural heritage in the Philippines. Along with the image, you also see the new BSP logo representing institutional stability and modernization as the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas took steps to project itself as a forward-looking central bank committed to global financial standards. The coin is nickel-plated steel, a material chosen for durability, cost efficiency, and uniformity. The shift to this composition was part of a wider reform in the coinage system that sought to replace older brass and copper nickel coins, which were more expensive to mint and prone to hoarding or misuse. With nickel-plated steel, the BSP could produce coins in large volumes while reducing costs and ensuring consistency across denominations. But the 2018 1 peso coin was not without controversy. Many Filipinos complained about its design and size, as it closely resembled other denominations, particularly the 5 peso coin of the same series. This led to confusion in transactions and prompted debates on whether the BSP should redesign the coins to make them more distinguishable. Despite the criticism, the coin remained in circulation and became a subject of public discussion, sparking greater awareness of the intricacies of coinage design and its impact on daily life. To understand the 2018 1 peso coin, you must also place it within the broader context of Philippine monetary history. The peso itself traces its origins to the Spanish colonial period, when silver pesos circulated across Asia and the Americas. After independence, the peso became the cornerstone of the Philippine monetary system, and over decades, it evolved through numerous redesigns reflecting shifts in politics, culture, and economy. The 2018 version is one step in this long journey, representing the modern stage of nation-building. Collectors view the 2018 1 peso coin with mixed feelings. While some see it as too plain and lacking distinction, others appreciate its modern simplicity and the symbolism of the wailing orchid and Rizal together. The coin represents a bridge between past and future heroism and natural beauty, tradition and modernization. Its value to numismatists lies not only in its design, but also in its role in one of the most significant coinage reforms in recent Philippine history. In terms of circulation, the 1 peso coin of 2018 quickly became the most widely used denomination in the country, as small transactions heavily depend on it. Jeepney fares, street food markets, and daily purchases all rely on the peso coin, making it a vital element of the Philippine economy through constant use. The coin became a silent witness to the struggles and triumphs of ordinary Filipinos, across cities and rural areas alike. What makes the 1 peso coin of 2018 truly remarkable is how it condenses multiple layers of meaning into a small, round piece of metal. It tells the story of a national hero. It highlights the beauty of the natural world. It embodies the reforms of a central bank, and it reflects the everyday life of millions of people from the busy streets of Manila to the quiet villages in the provinces. As we journey deeper into this history, you will see how each detail of the coin connects to larger themes, from the evolution of coin production technology to the significance of Jose Rizal's enduring legacy, from the conservation of the waling-waling orchid to the modernization efforts of the Philippine monetary system. The 1 peso coin of 2018 is more than just change in your pocket. It is a living piece of heritage. And so, if you are ready, stay with me as we break down its design, its symbolism, its controversies, its historical roots, its economic impact, and its cultural significance in a way that will transform how you look at every coin that passes through your hands. Because the 1 peso coin of 2018 is not just currency. It is history, identity, and nationhood forged in steel and carried by the people every single day. The 1 peso coin of 2018 stands at the center of an important transformation in Philippine currency history, and to fully appreciate its place in the numismatic story of the nation, we must go deeper into its creation, the circumstances surrounding its release, and the historical legacy that shaped its symbolism. The introduction of this coin was not merely a change in appearance, but part of a larger nationwide effort to modernize financial instruments, simplify circulation, and strengthen the identity of the Filipino nation through its most common medium of exchange, the everyday coin that passes through millions of hands. The decision to redesign the 1 peso coin came after years of challenges with the previous coinage series, which had been in circulation since the early 1990s. The old coins, known as the BSP series, had grown outdated and expensive to produce, and many of them were prone to being confused with one another as commerce in the Philippines became increasingly fast-paced. The Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas recognized the need for a more uniform series that could be easily managed by both the public and financial institutions. The answer was the New Generation Currency Coin Series, a project that involved years of planning and careful study of design elements, security features, and material costs. When the 1 peso coin of 2018 was unveiled, the first reaction of the public was mixed. On the one hand, many people were impressed with its shiny and uniform look, its lighter weight, and the refreshing introduction of natural symbols like the wailing orchid on the reverse side. On the other hand, the criticism soon emerged that its design was too plain, too similar to other coins, and too easy to confuse with the 5 peso coin, especially for ordinary workers, vendors, and commuters who needed to handle change quickly in daily transactions. This debate over its practicality became a national conversation, and newspapers, radio, and television programs covered the issue, while ordinary Filipinos shared their frustrations or support. Beyond the public opinion, however, the coin has a deeper layer of meaning that extends into the country's history, starting with its obverse. The image of Jose Rizal is not a casual choice. Rizal has appeared on Philippine currency for decades, but each representation of him carries new weight, depending on the historical moment of release. In 2018, his face was engraved in a modern, minimalistic manner, projecting an image that was dignified and straightforward, symbolizing clarity and strength for a new generation. The portrait connects millions of Filipinos to the ideals of freedom reform and national pride that Rizal embodied in his writings and his sacrifice. On the reverse, the wailing orchid is not only a flower but a national symbol that represents both rarity and resilience. The decision to include it among the designs of the New Generation Currency series reflects the broader trend of showcasing Philippine flora and fauna on coins and banknotes, a reminder that the nation's natural heritage is as valuable as its historical figures. The orchid's delicate structure and vibrant beauty stand in contrast to the industrial steel of the coin itself, creating a powerful visual metaphor for the union of culture, nature, and progress.